In an exclusive interview with NBC News, CEO Minicucci says Alaska technicians have found more loose bolts on grounded planes.
We found, some loose bolts on many of our MAX 9s. So those,
many,
so those are things that are going to be rectified. It makes me angry, Tom. Boeing is better than this, Flight 1282 should never have happened.
Alaska Airlines CEO Ben Minicucci, that is his name, that is how you pronounce it, we did double check, is furious with Boeing, which manufactures all of the planes in Alaska Airlines' fleet. Now that's because in the weeks after Alaska Airlines Flight 1282, when a door plug flew off a Boeing 737 MAX plane, a growing number of reports have proved just how error-prone the company's planes happen to be. Now, Minicucci isn't even the only CEO that's frustrated and furious about this, calling out the problem. Here's United Airlines CEO Scott Kirby explaining his thoughts on this whole matter.
Look, we're Boeing's biggest customer in the world. They're our biggest partner in the world. We need Boeing to succeed. And I have a lot of confidence in the people of Boeing. There's great mechanics, great engineers, great storied history. But they've been having these consistent manufacturing challenges and they need to take action to get it. That's the point to Dave and to anyone is it needs to be real action to make, if they don't.
And when you tell Dave Calhoun this, what does he say?
Well, he says yes, but I'm a lot more, he doesn't disagree, of course, but I am a lot more interested in seeing the actions. Like right now, we need to get through the MAX, we're doing that. But on the backside of this, what are the real actions to really get the manufacturing process back to the high levels of quality, consistency that historically existed at Boeing?
Get money out of politics. So companies like Boeing are no longer able to lobby our politicians to keep pushing for deregulation. That would impact the companies that he is the CEO of. But if you're worried about safety, and if you're wondering why Boeing has been able to get away with these issues with a lack of oversight, lobbying has a lot to do with it, and we'll get back to that in just a moment. But here at TYT, we have already covered multiple reports by The Lever about Boeing and its parts supplier, Spirit AeroSystems, both of which have prioritized profits over safety. Well, this morning, The Lever published yet another fantastic report on Boeing, this time revealing that over the last 3 years, operators of Boeing's troubled 737 MAX planes have filed more than 1,800 service difficulty reports, more than one per day, warning government regulators about safety problems with the aircraft. So airlines must file those service difficulty reports to the FAA with 96 hours of safety issues or safety malfunction. And the reports include false warning notifications, noxious odors, fuel leaks, engine shutdowns, brake system malfunctions, and other incidents. And look, all of this stuff sounds scary, is scary, and I just want to note that even though there have been all sorts of malfunctions reported in the news recently, luckily there have been no reports of fatalities or injuries. But this is a serious issue that needs to be dealt with immediately. The number of service difficulty reports is especially high with one airline in particular. So let's talk a little bit about that. Between December of 2020 and September of 2023, Alaska Airlines filed more than 1,230 reports related to the 53 Boeing 737 MAX planes it had in its fleet. For comparison, during the same period, the airline filed 25 reports for its 10 Airbus A321neo airplanes, the main competitor to Boeing's 737 MAX. So according to Ed Pearson, who's a former senior Boeing employee and founder of the Foundation for Aviation Safety, many of those incidents in these reports would not cause a plane to crash on its own, okay? There are issues, there are definitely malfunctions, but based on what was read in those documents and those filings, there was no indication that the malfunctions were serious enough to cause the plane to crash. But the sheer number of these reports indicates that something is wrong with how Boeing is manufacturing these planes. Pearson also told The Lever, what we're talking about is the cumulative effect of multiple emergencies at the same time. These add up, and these are new planes that should not be having these problems. There are clearly manufacturing defects because the planes haven't been operated long enough to do any kind of maintenance on them. These are brand new planes. And by the way, if you're wondering, okay, is there something up with Alaska? Because if Alaska Airlines has all of these reports of the Boeing planes malfunctioning, maybe Alaska Airlines is doing something wrong. But no, Alaska Airlines is actually doing the right thing by filing the necessary reports. There's some indication that other airlines aren't doing that, and that's a big problem. So according to Pearson, American Airlines, Southwest Airlines, and United Airlines don't appear to be submitting their reports in accordance with the spirit of the law, because we know that the Alaska planes were not built in a group. Southwest Airlines has over 180 MAX airplanes, and just a fraction of those reports. We think what's happening is that they're choosing not to submit the reports, and the FAA is not holding them accountable. Meanwhile, Boeing appears to be more interested in lobbying our federal government rather than keeping their passengers safe, or the passengers of their planes safe. For example, there have been more than 80 reports filed since April of 2021 involving the anti-ice system on Boeing's 737 MAX planes. Previously, in 2018, an anti-ice system caused a part of the engine on a 737 plane to snap off and strike a window, resulting in a fatality on a Southwest flight. Boeing is currently seeking an FAA exemption to use a new anti-ice system on its 737 MAX planes, but critics have warned against this, saying that if the system is left on for more than 5 minutes, engine parts could overheat and snap off. And it's not an isolated incident. Let's look at some other lobbying that's been taking place. Let's take a look at this graph. It's the annual lobbying by Boeing. And according to Open Secrets, Boeing spent over $12 million on lobbying the federal government every year from 2008 to 2022. The company fell just shy of that mark last year. I mean, it wasn't an election year, that's probably why. They spent a mere $10 million, $10,710,000 on lobbying. It's insane. And so I just find it so funny that you now have the CEO of Boeing meeting with individual senators to explain himself. One of those senators, by the way, is Ted Cruz. Are they really gonna pretend like they don't know what's up? It's like, hey, look, we took your bribes and we followed through with the deregulation. But just for show, we're gonna have these closed door meetings. So it appears like we're holding you accountable. No, you guys are corrupt and you guys went with the deregulation, and this is what you get. Companies have one job to do. What is their responsibility, everyone? Especially publicly traded companies, what is their responsibility? Their responsibility, their fiduciary responsibility is to their shareholders. So they're going to focus on maximizing profits, ensuring that manufacturing is foolproof, ensuring that everything is squared away, that there's proper oversight and everything is functioning well. That takes time and money. Those can be costly resources that they would rather funnel over to their shareholders, because that's their fiduciary responsibility, right? The responsibility of the government is to keep their citizens safe, and that includes regulating industries that are as important as the airline industry. This is insane, but this is what our system has devolved to. In short, the company has spent a huge amount of money, Boeing that is, on bribing our elected officials in a quest for deregulation. But the top brass at Boeing have received a massive return on that investment. So try to wrap your head around these numbers. Get ready. In total, over the past decade, according to SEC filings, Boeing spent roughly $573 million on total executive pay. In the last decade, Boeing has spent more than $40 billion on stock buybacks and distributed almost $22 billion in dividends to their shareholders. That fiduciary responsibility, of course, that's according to Regulatory disclosures. Many of Boeing's mass stock buybacks came after President Donald Trump's 2017 tax cuts, despite the fact that Boeing and other major companies promised to invest their resulting tax savings on capital expenditure and innovation. The only thing they're innovating over at Boeing these days is instilling more fear in American travelers. This is outrageous, it's unacceptable. And I'm not buying the little show that's happening with a few senators right now meeting with the Boeing CEO. They shouldn't get rewarded for that. You shouldn't be under the assumption that they're holding Boeing accountable at all. Holding Boeing accountable means passing regulations through legislation that ensure that they're doing their part to keep passengers safe. And I'm not seeing that right now. And until I do, no cookies for them.
Thanks for watching the video, guys. We also love it if you hit the join button below, because that makes you a member, and members allow us to be independent, honest. We can be as progressive as we want, no corporate media influence, and that's all because of you guys. We love doing the show with our members. Hit the join button, become one of the Young Turks.